Ruth and Boaz. In the days when the judges ruled Israel, there was a famine in the land. The fields were barren and hunger pressed heavily upon the people. In Bethlehem of Judah, a man named Elimelech lived with his wife Naomi and their two sons, Mahlon and Chilion. Seeking relief from the famine, they left their homeland and traveled eastward to the land of Moab, a place foreign to Israel's customs, but promising food and shelter. The family settled in Moab and tried to make a life there. But tragedy soon visited them. Elimelech died, leaving Naomi a widow in a strange land. Her sons married Moabite women, one named Orpah and the other Ruth. For a time there was hope of a new future, but after about 10 years, both Mahlon and Chilion died as well. Naomi was left with her daughters-in-law, 3 widows bound by sorrow. Naomi heard that the Lord had blessed his people by providing food in Bethlehem once more. With no future in Moab, she resolved to return home. Orpah and Ruth accompanied her on the road, but as they journeyed, Naomi urged them to go back to their families. She had no more sons to give them as husbands, and she feared they would have no security if they followed her. Orpah wept and kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, returning to Moab. Ruth, however, clung tightly to Naomi. Though Naomi insisted that Ruth go back to her people and her gods, Ruth refused. With words that would echo through generations, she declared her loyalty. "Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried." Seeing her determination, Naomi said no more, and together they journeyed to Bethlehem. When they arrived, the town was stirred. The women whispered, "Can this be Naomi?" But Naomi, whose name meant pleasant, answered with bitterness. "Do not call me Naomi," she said. "Call me Mara, for the Almighty has made my life bitter. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty." Yet though her heart was heavy, she had not returned alone. Ruth, her loyal companion, stood beside her. It was the beginning of the barley harvest, and Ruth took it upon herself to provide for them. She asked Naomi's permission to go to the fields and glean behind the harvesters, gathering leftover stalks of grain, as the law of Israel allowed for the poor. By Providence, she found herself in the field of Boaz, a man of wealth and standing from the clan of Elimelech. Boaz arrived from Bethlehem and greeted his harvesters with the blessing, "The Lord be with you." They answered, "The Lord bless you." Boaz noticed Ruth among the gleaners and asked his overseer about her. The overseer explained that she was the Moabite woman who had returned with Naomi. He praised her hard work, saying she had been on her feet since morning with little rest. Boaz approached Ruth and spoke kindly to her. He told her not to glean in another field, but to stay close to his servant girls. He instructed the men not to harm her and offered her water from the jars his workers had filled. Overwhelmed by his kindness, Ruth bowed with her face to the ground and asked why she had found such favor as a foreigner. Boaz replied that he had heard of all she had done for Naomi, leaving her father and mother and homeland to come to a people she did not know before. He blessed her, saying, "May the Lord repay you for what you have done. May you be richly rewarded by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge." At mealtime, Boaz invited her to eat with the harvesters. He offered her bread dipped in wine vinegar and roasted grain until she was satisfied, and she saved some to take home to Naomi. When she returned to the field, Boaz instructed his men to pull out stalks from the bundles and leave them for her to gather. That evening, Ruth threshed what she had collected, about an ephah of barley, and carried it back to Naomi. Naomi was astonished at the abundance. She asked where Ruth had gleaned, and when Ruth spoke the name of Boaz, Naomi's heart lifted. "The Lord bless him," she said. "He has not stopped showing kindness to the living and the dead. That man is our close relative. He is one of our kinsman redeemers." Naomi encouraged Ruth to stay with Boaz's servant girls, and Ruth continued to glean in his fields through the barley and wheat harvests. As time passed, Naomi sought security for Ruth. that she might find rest in the home of a husband. She knew Boaz was a kinsman redeemer, one with the right to marry a widow to preserve the family line. So Naomi devised a plan. She told Ruth to wash, put on her best clothes, and go down to the threshing floor where Boaz would be winnowing barley. After he had eaten and drunk and lain down, she was to note where he lay, then go and uncover his feet and lie down. He would tell her what to do. Ruth obeyed Naomi. When Boaz had finished his work and lay down by the grain pile, Ruth approached quietly, uncovered his feet, and lay down. In the middle of the night, Boaz awoke and was startled to find a woman lying there. "Who are you?" he asked. She replied, "I am your servant Ruth. Spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are a kinsman redeemer." Boaz was deeply moved. He praised her for her kindness, noting that she had not run after the younger men, rich or poor. He assured her that he would do for her all she asked, for everyone knew she was a woman of noble character. Yet he explained that there was another relative closer than he who had the first right of redemption. Boaz promised that if the nearer kinsman refused, he himself would redeem her. He told her to rest until morning. Before dawn, Ruth rose, and Boaz gave her 6 measures of barley to take back to Naomi, so that she would not return empty-handed. Naomi, hearing all that happened, told Ruth to wait, for Boaz would not rest until the matter was settled that very day. Boaz went to the town gate, where business was conducted. When the nearer kinsman passed by, Boaz called him to sit with 10 elders of the town as witnesses. Boaz explained that Naomi was selling the land that had belonged to Elimelech, and the man had the right to redeem it. At first the kinsman agreed, but when Boaz added that redeeming the land meant marrying Ruth the Moabite to maintain the name of the deceased, the man declined, fearing it would endanger his estate. He removed his sandal as a sign, passing the right of redemption to Boaz. Before the elders and all the people, Boaz declared that he had bought from Naomi all that belonged to Elimelech, Mahlon, and Chilion, and that he had taken Ruth as his wife to maintain the name of the dead with his inheritance. The elders blessed him, saying, "May the Lord make the woman who is coming into your home like Rachel and Leah, who together built up the house of Israel. May your family be like that of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah." Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. The Lord blessed their union, and she bore a son. The women of the town rejoiced with Naomi, saying, "Praise be to the Lord, who this day has not left you without a kinsman redeemer. May he become famous throughout Israel. He will renew your life and sustain you in your old age. For your daughter-in-law, who loves you and is better to you than 7 sons, has given him birth." They placed the child in Naomi's arms, and she cared for him as her own. They named him Obed. He became the father of Jesse, who was the father of David, Israel's greatest king. Through this line, generations later, came Jesus Christ, the Savior of the world. What began with tragedy and loss in Moab ended with redemption and hope in Bethlehem. Ruth, the Moabite widow who clung to her mother-in-law and embraced the God of Israel, became a part of the lineage of the Messiah. The story of Ruth and Boaz shines as a testimony of loyalty, faith, and divine providence. It shows how God works through ordinary lives and quiet acts of faithfulness to fulfill his eternal purposes. Ruth's devotion to Naomi led her to Boaz, whose kindness and integrity reflected God's redeeming love. Their union points forward to the ultimate Redeemer, Christ, who welcomes all who come to him in faith. Even today, the words of Ruth to Naomi inspire unwavering commitment, and the faithfulness of Boaz encourages men and women to live with honor. The story reminds us that God's plans often unfold in ways we cannot foresee, turning sorrow into joy and emptiness into abundance. In Ruth and Boaz, we see that love rooted in faith can change not only the course of 2 lives, but also the destiny of nations.